If not, you can always use the chat window, or you can always mail afterwards. We have one new message. Gonzalo, what I really liked is that you used the National Energy and Climate Plan of Spain to derive the energy goals from the Canaries. Do you think that the islands could have more ambitious targets than the mainland of Spain?
This is a good question, Robert. Well, our problem is the lack of land. So half of our territory is protected. The energy transition needs 2.5% occupation of our land, but we have a beautiful land here, like all of you overseas countries. No? So there is a beginning to be a NIMBY NIMBY movement, okay?
Yeah.
And of course, the politicians of the last term, they said, okay, 2040, which is 10 years before or ahead of the European goals. But I see this is a big problem. So we need to foster marine renewable energies, particularly floating offshore wind, because what I see is that we will have a deceleration of conventional energies because of this visual impacting.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Lanzarote and Fuerteventura, beautiful islands, very flat, beaches, and so on, like Curaçao or Bonaire. They don't want to see more windmills.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
No, perhaps just very briefly to respond to that. Indeed, I think that in many of the islands, land shortage is the main bottleneck to the expansion of renewable energy projects. And one thing that you can do is a calculation of how much square kilometers are required. You know, and sometimes
we have done this
more
already.
than the islands.
But people,
that's really when it becomes challenging.
People are really the energy transition needs lots of communication. Okay.
Yeah.
So the people are not aware, which is the effort that's needed to decarbonize everything. Okay. And things have to be sacrificed, some things. Okay. So this is an issue here right now.
They once asked me, if you have $1 million to spend on the energy transition, what would you spend on it? And that's the answer I gave on communication.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
If you don't have the people with you, then you're never going to make it.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, Zeffirinos, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So do I share my screen?
Yes, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Just briefly present yourself, maybe. I think everyone by now knows you, but
okay.
Maybe what I think is super interesting, because not everyone knows the Resembit project, so that could be interesting to just briefly explain that as well.
Okay, all right. Okay, so thank you for having me here, and good day to everyone. My name is Zeffirinos Norbert, and I am the project officer working on this sustainable energy project in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I know that my colleague Eric Salamanca is here with us.
Yes.
And he was part of the team that designed this project from the concept note all the way to the implementation phase that we are currently going through. So the Turks and Caicos Islands, through the Ministry of Public Safety and Utilities, and within the Energy and Utilities Department, the project is currently being implemented, and it is a sustainable energy project. The project is grant funded by the European Union, and it is supported by the Resembid Sustainable Energy Program. The aims of this project is to accelerate sustainable energy, increase energy resilience, and support a green economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. So as I go forward with my presentation, I would like to acknowledge the work of the Resembid program, and I will explain a little later on what the Resembid program is all about. We also want to acknowledge the support from Expertise France, the anonymous independent reviewers, the Energy and Utilities Department in the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Public Safety and Utilities. The Clinton Climate Initiative also played a very active role during the design and the concept note for this project. And the Rocky Mountain Institute, RMI, they are currently with us as the policy consultant for the project. So the Turks and Caicos Islands is one of the most vulnerable member states of CARICOM. It is an archipelago of 40 low-lying islands and keys. The TCI's geographic location and small economy make it highly susceptible to climate change impacts, such as the increased frequency of hurricanes and sea level rise. So these climate change impacts pose a significant risk to the local economy, the critical infrastructure, and livelihoods of the Turks and Caicos Islands residents. So the high exposure and vulnerability to the local energy sector are evident following an active 2017 Atlantic hurricane season. Hurricane Irma, if most of you will recall, was a Category 5 hurricane, and this caused severe damage to the rooftops. It caused significant flooding throughout communities and destroyed utility poles, resulting in mass power outages. Compounding the damage already felt, just days later, the Turks and Caicos Islands would be struck by a second major hurricane, Hurricane Maria, which was a Category 3 hurricane, with wind speeds up to 125 miles per hour. And to address the damage caused to the local energy utility system, the local company was forced to import much needed capacity from the international parent companies in Canada, the United States, and across the Caribbean. It would then take them 60 days after Hurricane Irma to restore power to the country. However, many residents remained without power due to the damage caused to their homes and their inability to connect power safely. Currently, electricity is generated in the Turks and Caicos Islands through the use of diesel-powered power plants. The current demand or installed capacity of those diesel power plants stand at 84 megawatts. And there is a national consensus across the public and private sectors to transition towards renewable energy in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So just to give you the geographical location, as I said, in reference to Miami in this red circle here, the Turks and Caicos Islands is located right here. Okay. So the background of this project, the TCI Sustainable Energy Project, titled Transitioning Towards Green Energy in the Turks and Caicos Islands. The project is made possible, as I said, through the support of the RESIMBID program, which is the RESIMBID stands for Resilience, Sustainable Energy, and Biodiversity. So the RESIMBID program is a 47 project program funded by the European Union and implemented by Expertise France, the development cooperation agency of the government of France, and supports sustainable human development efforts in 12 Caribbean overseas countries and territories, the OCTs. The overall objective of this project is to contribute to the acceleration of a reliable, resilient, and environmentally sustainable energy sector in the Turks and Caicos Islands. The project will also strengthen capacity of a sustainable energy transition in the Turks and Caicos Islands through investment in capacity building, development of modern legislative and regulatory frameworks, and a catalytic pilot projects in the field of renewable energy and the installation of solar streetlights. So this project has a specific objective and that is to strengthen the capacity of the Turks and Caicos Islands for a sustainable energy transition. In terms of the 12 Caribbean overseas countries and territories, I'm just going to name the islands where the Resin Bid program is currently implementing those projects. So we have Aruba, Anguilla, Bonaire, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, Curacao, Montserrat, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Barthélemy, St. Martin, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. So to support the improvement and the transformation of the Turks and Caicos Islands energy sector, the Turks and Caicos Islands developed its Resilient National Energy Transition Strategy, and that's referred to as the RNETS, the Resilient National Energy Transition Strategy. And it offers a comprehensive evaluation of the energy sector and identifies short, medium, and long-term needs for the development of a green energy network. In 2019, the Turks and Caicos Islands government, the cabinet, adopted the RNETS, which was led by the government, the local utility company, and Rocky Mountain Institute, RMI. An optimal pathway was identified to reach at least 33% renewable energy penetration by the year 2040. And that is with the installation of microgrid capable renewables at critical public buildings. The RNETs also recommended the pursuit of energy efficiency, the acceleration of legislation to support the TCIG and the TCI utility company programs, and additional utility scale projects with battery energy storage. The current scenario in the Turks and Caicos Islands, as it relates to the penetration of renewable energy, and in particular, the solar PV systems, the penetration stands at approximately 5 to 6 megawatts. The peak demand is currently at 46 megawatts with an installed capacity of 92 megawatts. So as we look at the current scenarios, let's also look at the current cost. In addition to the risks of the impacts of climate change, when we examine the current cost of energy in the Turks and Caicos Islands, we see that the need for that transition towards green energy or more sustainable energy is very much necessary from an economical point of view as well. So the average cost of energy based on the cost per kilowatt hour stands at 27 cents, that's US, 27 US cents per kilowatt hour.
But that's just the production, or that's also the grid operation?
That's just the unit cost of energy
to produce it
by itself. Yes.
Yeah.
So each one consuming, the consumers would pay. It's broken up down into two sections. The first section that looks at the cost of the kilowatt hours would be 27 cents per kilowatt hour, and the average fuel factor. So there are two sections. One deals with the actual unit of energy, and then there is the fuel factor. And the average fuel factor stands at 21 cents US on average. So the combined cost, if you look at the combined cost of energy, in doing the analysis, we have to look at this combined cost. It stands at 48 cents per kilowatt hour. And this is the highest in the Caribbean, and if not the highest in the world. Based on my experience and working in the field for over 2 decades, throughout the region and internationally, this is quite a high figure as far as the cost of energy. So we can understand the background where the transition will be able to help with the economic, environmental, and social benefits to all residents within TCI. I'm sharing here just a slide that looks at the Turks and Caicos Islands, a utility company, just by examining the years from 2012 to 2022, the importation of fuel in gallons, the average stands at just a little over 16 million gallons on an annual basis. But interestingly, when we look at the figures, if we compare from 2012, where it was about 10.9 million gallons, and we look at the figure for 2022, we see almost a doubling of the importation of fuel.
Do you
A
see
sharp
the
increase.
2020, 2021, is it due to Corona and the fact that there were no tourists on the islands?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this would be due to the pandemic, the lower figures, as you rightfully said, in 2020 and 2021. But a sharp increase in 2022, where there is almost a doubling of the importation of fuel in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Granted, we have quite a bit of construction going on, and new buildings are being erected. But this is an alarming increase when compared to the importation from 2012 compared to 2022. So on average, over this period, we see that the importation on an annual basis stands at 16,147,728 gallons. An analysis was also done for the energy generated in kilowatt hours by the utility company for 2019, 2020, and 2021. The average energy generated by the fossil fuel plants for that period stood at 11,458,000 kilowatt hours. Now, the analysis in terms of the carbon footprint associated with the energy generated by the company, looking at the total production fuel mix factor for scope 1 and scope 2, plus a 5% T&D losses, the emission factor that we currently use is 0.84231. And that is pretty much taking into account the losses, as I said, and considering scope 2 and scope 3. So the carbon footprint in terms of the kilogram of CO2 equivalent on an annual basis averages 9,651,188 kilograms of CO2 per year. And in terms of the conversion to the tons of CO2 in reference to the energy generated by the power company through the fossil fuels is at 9,651 tons of CO2 equivalent. So it's interesting to just have this information readily available, because as we transition towards green energy, renewable energy, we need to now begin to have this narrative that reflects on the reduction of the carbon footprint. Every time we implement a renewable energy project, for every kilowatt hour that is generated by a green energy plant or a renewable energy plant, is an avoided CO2 emission based on the generation side. And so we use this information throughout the project to speak about the decarbonization of the buildings, the facilities in question that will receive the renewable energy, and as well the energy efficiency measures. And the presentation that you spoke about, when you spoke about the energy efficiency being the first fuel, I think, Lynn, in your presentation, you spoke about this. It is very, very important that we all appreciate the contribution from energy efficiency as well, because every kilowatt hour that is saved by energy efficiency measures or the demand side management initiatives means that there is an avoided emission when using these calculations with the emission factors. So as far as the communication and the dialogue and the narratives that we use throughout the project, we share based on the ability of the project to implement the renewable energy and energy efficiency measures to decarbonize the built environment. So in terms of the components, the project has 4 strategic components, and these components touch on a lot of what we've been discussing and what I've been listening to in terms of the transitioning towards green energy. And it is very, very well designed to assist the Turks and Caicos Islands in touching on the critical areas that will be able to now stimulate further dialogue, further investment into the renewable energy efficiency for the Turks and Caicos Islands. So component one is a catalytic pilot energy projects implemented, and it's broken down into 2 subheadings. The output 1A focuses on the installation of solar PV microgrids. A total of 5 systems will be installed at the critical public facilities, and in particular, we're referring to the clinics. So this will be a total of about 81 kilowatt of PV installed on the rooftops, and as well 110 solar streetlights will be installed throughout the islands.
And preparing those installations, did you change anything with regards to the regulation or safety requirements, to prevent it blown away again with the next hurricane?
Yes, so in terms of it being resilient,
Yeah.
we looked at the racking system.
Yeah.
The racking system has to be designed in such a way that it can withstand the Category 5 force winds. So
And
that
you
was
have,
one area.
Do you have any idea? I mean, did you do that yourself? Did you develop these technologies or the guidelines yourself, or was it any of the institute that you mentioned earlier that helped you doing that?
Yes, it was because we have we had a renewable energy consultant who worked with us.
Yeah.
We also got assistance from the Rocky Mountains Institute, and so they really helped. The team really worked together in terms of designing what is necessary to design a resilient system that can withstand the Category 5 hurricanes.
And then last question on that, sorry to interrupt you. Would it be something that you can share with the others, the link to where they can find the description of the requirements?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah.
We can share. I can share with you a copy of the.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the same is true for the solar streetlights. We also had in the procurement package, the requirements were such that these streetlights will be able to withstand a Category 5 hurricanes. The second component deals with the applicable laws and regulations, policies related to the National Energy Transition Strategy, and to review what currently exists, identify the gaps as far as what should be included to facilitate that smooth transition towards green energy. Component 3 is where we have a very strong public awareness and a communications and visibility plan to increase the conversations, interest, and knowledge surrounding sustainable energy and the TCI's green energy transition. So in this component, we went through administering questionnaires throughout the islands to identify the levels of interest and the willingness to participate. So it was something that a total of 400 of the residents were interviewed, and we saw over 80% of them identifying their willingness to participate in this transition. The main concern was the affordability of these systems. So we have designed quite a bit of activities surrounding the public awareness, the communications and visibility plan for the transition towards green energy. And finally, component 4 focuses on the capacity building. We are currently working with the community college. Some of the candidates are part of the certification programs that the project is funding. So 2 of the lecturers within the college, they have already received certification from the Solar Energy International, SEI. A total of 10 candidates are participating in this training program for the Solar Energy International certificate. In addition to the Solar Energy International training certificates and the candidates who are participating in this, we have 10 of the installers, those who are in the private sector, those who are actually working in the field. They are now undertaking the certification from the NABCEP. And NABCEP is the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners. This is the credential that's been used throughout the CARICOM region for any practitioner would like to be certified in the field of PV and solar PV installations, solar PV designs. So the private sector and the public sector are both engaged in this process. For example, for those who would be reviewing the plans within the planning department, we do have candidates who are doing the SEI, the Solar Energy International certification. Dr. Salamanca, who is with us here, he has also done the SEI certification, and he's within the Energy and Utilities Department. So there is a need to have both the private sector, the public sector involved in certification programs. And this is setting the standard going forward, because we are currently reviewing the renewable energy bill, and there are requirements in there that would speak to the qualification of the candidates who will be designing these systems. So in addition to the 2 certification programs, where we have 10 candidates each participating in this program, we had the energy audit and energy management training. And this training was open to all participants who would like to participate. So we had the public sector involved, the private sector, homeowners, students. It was open to all to participate in this 5-day training, where they receive training on energy management and energy auditing. So essentially, the aim of this training was to sensitize the public of the importance of energy management, the contribution of energy auditing as it relates to the transition, and as I said earlier, so that they can understand that every kilowatt hour that's saved through an energy conservation measure is considered a valued savings in terms of the carbon emissions. And so this was very, very successful. There were 41 members who registered for this training. It was for a period of 1 week, 1 hour per day. And so we were able to engage the public in general on the importance of energy management and energy auditing. The energy management was tailored from the ISO 50002 energy management, energy auditing standard. We also touched a little bit on the ASHRAE energy audit templates and requirements, but it was structured so that everyone could understand it and everyone could appreciate it. And things like, setting up an energy management team within organizations was highly promoted. How do you do an energy audit at home? So some basic templates were shared with them. We looked at the Energy Star templates, and they were given spreadsheets so that they can use their utility bill and to conduct their own energy audits at home, so that they can come up with the realistic figures based on actuals, the equipment that they're using, the lights that they are using, the ACs, and how they can come up with an inventory of their own appliances at home that comes very close to what is reflected in the utility bill. So this is a very good exercise. Just to move on to the next slide. The accomplishments and the status so far. Component 1 is at 65% completion. The contract for the installation of the 5 solar PV microgrids is being implemented right now. The annual array production of these systems will be 115,042 kilowatt hours combined. The facility's annual consumption currently stands at 324,754 kilowatt hours. The solar streetlights, which is the output B of component 1, this is the most challenging aspect of this project so far. We only had a 40% completion. We are currently going through contract negotiations. So we saw quite a bit of procurement challenges with regards to the solar streetlights. Had to go out to procurement 3 times to try to secure a provider for this. And we had to resort to the direct negotiations because of the challenges with the solar streetlights. Component 2, that looks at the policies and the necessary policies for this transition, is at an 85% completion. And the policy consultant, as I said, is the Rocky Mountain Institute. And we also have an energy efficiency consultant who is working with them so that we could come up with the relevant policies or bridging the relevant gaps where policies are concerned. For example, the whole idea of currently in the Turks and Caicos Islands, there is no metering structure in place, there are no policies in place, no regulations in place as we speak. Although we have seen a 5 to 6% installation or penetration of RE systems. So these policies that we're looking at, we'll look at things like the metering system. The preferred would be net metering. We'll also look at the whole idea of access fees. So the consultant, Rocky Mountain Institute, they've already given us a template, a spreadsheet that can be used to come up with the appropriate access fee based on the size of the system. I can share this template with, well, not the entire template, but I could share it on the screen just to show you because it's a document that's still being developed, just to give you a background as far as how they were able to come up with this figure. But I must say here that another challenge in executing the work of the policy consultant is access to data. Access to data is a challenge, especially from the utility company. It's very slow in coming, and it's affecting the completeness of the presentations from the consultant, because there's some information that's needed from the utility company so that they can strengthen the access fee, for example. So they will need to know some financials. They will need to know, the history and the cost of the assets so that they can come up with a realistic figure that would not have to go through so much litigation, or from what I heard from, I think it was Gonzalez who spoke about having to go through so many challenges with regards to the access fee. The component 3 is at 90% completion, and that's where we have a very strong communications and visibility plan, which has been executed by the communication specialist hired by the project, and as well the project team working together with the consultations, the administration of questionnaires, working in the schools. We recently had the art competition where the primary school students and the high school students were able to use the theme, my vision of a green TCI, and develop the artwork based on the theme. And this was very engaging to students, and we were able to come up with a winner from the high school and a winner from the primary school. And component 4 I spoke about already looks at the certification of the solar installers, the NAPCEP program, and also the SEI, the Solar Energy International certification that is ongoing. And we already had the energy management and energy audit training last month, because the month of November was the CARICOM Energy Month. So quite a bit of activities took place through the collaborative work of the project and the support from the Energy and Utilities Department in the Turks and Caicos Islands. The accomplishments on component 2 with the policies and the legislative development. So this is just basically the deliverables listed here. We can see the review of existing documents by the policy consultant. They have developed the interconnection agreement templates, the power purchase agreements. They've already developed templates for that. They have already conducted the study that I spoke about in terms of the access fee and the appropriate application forms. So with the renewable energy bill that is currently being reviewed and being discussed, it has already gone through the House for the first hearing. There's some more consultations taking place now. So these instruments that are being developed by the project will support the ARI bill when it becomes an ordinance. So these templates and the access fees and all of these will be part of the policies or the regulations that will be used for the renewable energy bill. So the project is also working with the policy consultant to develop to review the best practices of relevant laws and regulations from the region and globally that can be used in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Propose recommendations for the formation of an energy bill, and they've already submitted a framework that can be used in the Turks and Caicos Islands to develop the energy efficiency bill. Okay, these are the key areas or the key deliverables from the policy consultant. As far as the contributions of the Turks and Caicos Islands Sustainable Energy Project towards policy and regulations, we have seen a review of the energy efficiency and the renewable energy policies that exist, a new policy of zero tariff on the entire RE systems that has been approved by Cabinet. So the entire, before, it only used to be for the modules, the inverter, I think it's just the modules and the inverter. But now we have received or included the other parts of the system. So the entire system now receives a zero tariff. The import customs duty is now reduced to zero. For the energy efficiency appliances, there was a reduction from 2012 from 30% importation customs duty to 15%. And now there is a further reduction to 10% for energy efficiency appliances and equipment. In terms of the legislation, the review of legislation for a smooth transition to green energy, the renewable energy bill I spoke about earlier, and the outline that we will be receiving from the energy efficiency or the policy consultant with regards to the energy efficiency bill. So this will support not only the renewable energy component, but as well to include energy efficiency as a very critical, and as you heard before, the first fuel for this transition. The ARI regulations, the access fee for RE customers, the interconnection fees, or the templates, all of these will be very necessary when we look at the regulations in support of the RE bill when it becomes the ordinance in the near future. This is just showing the work of the project, the facilities. So we have the 4 clinics and the wellness center will receive the solar PV systems and the energy efficiency upgrades. The target at the end of the project is that there will be a 62% penetration in the Blue Hills Clinic, a 43% penetration at the Wellness Center, 55% penetration at the North Caicos Clinic, 81% penetration at the Middle Caicos Clinic, and a 91% penetration at the South Caicos Clinic.
Zefferinus, I'm just going to interrupt you a second. I think it's super interesting, so I'm going to leave you afterwards. But for the participants, I've been chatting here and there a bit with the Go team. if you're okay, wait, because Jean-Baptiste, maybe you can come in for a second to just see, because there are 2 more presentations from my side, and I don't know how much time you all have. So I'm happy to stay until the next hour is done, or and I'm happy to do that as well. We organize another session or tomorrow or on Monday. So any preference? Can the ones who want to just continue another until the next hour just, be vocal, raise their hands? Or is there any preference for doing another maybe shorter session tomorrow at the same time? Eric, Gilbert, raise your voices. April?
Hi, I prefer tomorrow.
You prefer tomorrow? Is there everyone agrees with doing it tomorrow? Then I will be introducing you into eco design, and Gail, yeah, that's fine. At the same time, is that okay for everyone?
To be honest, for me, Monday would be preferable instead of tomorrow, but that's
I
just
might have a traffic issue, Robert, on Monday. I'm coming from Brussels, and I don't trust traffic from Brussels.
Yeah, at worst, we will anyway share the recordings, right? So
yeah,
probably we will have less participants anyway because their agendas maybe are already full, but
yeah, so I will do the same session on Monday. I will figure out the details, but it's going to be the same Zoom call. So Zephyrinus, I'm giving you back the floor.
Thank you very much. My apologies for I'm trying to be as quick as possible with its, but thank you. So in terms of the outline of the energy efficiency bill, what we have seen is that there were 5 critical areas based on the work of the policy consultant. So this bill will focus on buildings and the building components, as far as the minimum energy performance of buildings, the certifications of buildings, some of what you spoke about earlier, Lynn, in your presentation, the whole idea of the appliance labeling. And these are some of the standards that are already implemented within other countries within the CARICOM region. And the Turks and Caicos Islands is an associate member of CARICOM. So this will be looking at the minimum energy performance, the demand side management, so to speak, of these buildings, using the energy efficiency building code as a guide, things like lighting, air conditioning as well, and to come up with the minimum energy performance of buildings. For street lights, the very same thing will be used. So for each of these subheadings, the emphasis is based on decarbonizing these sectors. So the building sector through the MEPS, the street lighting, transportation, the industry, and the cross sectoral areas as well with industry. And so to improve the energy performance of buildings, to look at these areas of streetlights, to improve the energy performance of streetlights by implementing the minimum energy performance standards, phase out of the least efficient products. On the transportation, we speak about to promote the fuel efficient non-engine components, such as those found in the electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, improve transport planning and system and efficiency, create targeted monitoring and enforcement regimes. Under the industry, the outline touches on the whole idea of promoting the high efficiency industry equipment and systems, stimulate and develop the energy efficient products and services for small and medium-sized enterprises, promote energy management and energy efficiency projects within the industry. And finally, on the cross-sectoral, we are looking at the design or designate lead institutions for planning, coordinating, and implementing and monitoring energy efficiency policies and programs, establish regular energy efficiency data collection and indicators, remove inefficient energy subsidies, stimulate investment in energy efficiency, and develop information and awareness campaigns and educational programs and capacity building. just to reference some of the work that I did in the region, in another island, in another Caribbean island in 2021, this project also looked at energy efficiency and renewable energy to decarbonize the building sector. And so what we found is that the energy efficiency projects resulted in a 61% reduction in the CO2 emissions on an annual basis, compared to a 39% reduction for a rooftop solar PV system. So the combination of RE and EE, we see the contribution, a greater contribution from energy efficiency in terms of reducing the CO2 emissions as compared to the rooftop solar PV systems. And this demonstrates the need to use energy efficiency as the first step towards decarbonizing the built environment, or the power supply company. The contribution of energy efficiency should not be underestimated, as we can see in the findings here. And in terms of the cost, the equity payback period for the capital energy efficiency project were less than 1 year, 6 months to be exact, while the renewable energy project was 13.4 years using the current feed-in tariff. The researcher also found that the equity payback of less than 5 years is achievable for the rooftop solar PV system if the feed-in tariff for the solar system was adjusted to the commercial rate that they were paying for electricity, which was 39 cents US per kilowatt hour. This is just a profile of most of the buildings in the Caribbean and region. We see that the air conditioning consumes the most energy based on the energy profile, the energy consumption of these buildings. So as we develop policies and look at regulations, and even at a global level, we have seen an increase in policies specifically looking at cooling, heat pumps, cooling systems, and lighting systems. Is a very smart and a very a good place to start, really, for policies in terms of looking at the cooling systems and lighting systems. Just to reference some of the work being done by the United Nations Habitat. In a recent article, the author emphasizes the need for policies in support of green building designs and renewable energy to reduce energy use and greenhouse gas emissions in cities. And the researcher also supports the sentiments of the United Nations Habitat that urbanization is responsible for 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions, a trend that is expected to increase over the next 3 decades. And the author advises the adaptation of green building policies to future-proof the built environment. Some work back in 2019, the EIA would have stated that only 35% of the global energy is covered under policies. But what we see now in 2023 is an increase in those policies, primarily in the area of cooling, lighting. So the policies have narrowed down into what most buildings would consume, where most of the energy will be consumed, and that the emphasis is placed on the cooling systems and lighting systems. So that's the end of my presentation. If there are any questions.
Any questions for Zeffirinius? So there's a lot of information also in the chat window. By the way, Zeffirinius, thank you for preparing it really nicely. Is the information from Resembit, all the trainings, is there training material that also will be available for the other islands? Or was it really like physical training, vocational training?
Yeah, it was physical training for specifically to this project, because the way we designed it is that we actually were able to access a service provider throughout the region. So this service provider came in, is doing this remotely for the TCI members, as well as the Solar Energy International. We were able to establish an agreement for 1 year so that the public sector can access, so future departments can also have this training done if they would like to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I think it was really structured as well. So we will be diving into two more topics tomorrow, which on the one hand is another set of examples for energy regulation that you could use to reduce energy, to improve energy efficiency and increase the amount of renewables. And a presentation on how you set up a regulatory sandbox and what you can do, and that you do not always need it. I mean, love to have done it today, but I didn't want to rush any of the presentations because I know this experience exchange is important as well. But more than happy to see you again tomorrow. Ricardo will be sending out the invite. However, it's the same Zoom link as today. Any other questions on the session as a whole are more than welcome to us right now or tomorrow. And already for the ones that can't join tomorrow, from my side, it was an honor to be here teaching you, training you. I've learned to appreciate all of you more and more. Eric still remains one of my favorites, but I mean, it was really an honor. So it's a pleasure for the ones that come again tomorrow. And for the other ones, hopefully to see you again soon. We will be in touch anyhow for when we develop the catalog with some of the case studies. So there are definitely case studies that have been presented here that we could integrate in there. And if not, if there's anything, I think you do have our contact details. So don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Jean-Baptiste, anything else to say?
No, I think it's all good. Thank you very much again, Lynn, for delivering the training and for organizing it. Thank you everybody for your participation, and of course there's a last session tomorrow, so that's great to hear. All the sessions have been recorded, and the presentations, the materials, as mentioned by Lynn, will be shared with all of you. They will be shared through our Go platform, which is available through our website. You will have to log in to create an account and to log in to access the platform, but there will be a lot of interesting materials, including from the trainings, of course. Also, you will be able to see the contacts of the different participants and to chat with different participants as well. So the platform is currently unavailable in English because we have facing a little bit of an IT issue, but it will be available, and I think it will be sorted out by the end of next week. So, and hopefully before. So in any case, you will be able to access all the materials, and for future trainings as well, and for all the other activities that are planned as part of the Green Overseas Program communities. So yeah, thank you all. It was a pleasure. So and thank you, Lynn. And thank you, Ricardo and Laura and all the team.
Okay, so guys, hopefully to see all of you tomorrow. We'll be diving into some interesting things. We'll show you some profiles also of energy consumption, so you have a bit of an idea what energy efficiency can effectively contribute. So Ricardo will be sending an invite for this tomorrow session as well. If you didn't receive the invite, you can normally just use the link that we used today, right?
Yes.
Ricardo? Yeah. Okay.
Same time, same link.
Yeah. And if you want to have your colleagues joining, then just don't hesitate. The more, the merrier. Okay, guys. See you all tomorrow.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Zefarinos.
Thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.